Imagine being a woman in 1957 who defies all the social conventions of the time, riding a powerful motorcycle through the rural roads of Idaho while men stop to look with a mixture of admiration and disapproval. You go out for a routine ride on a spring afternoon, wave to neighbors, and simply disappear. No trace on the road, no witness to an accident, only silence, where before there was the roar of a V-twin engine. And when the truth finally emerges 68 years later, it comes from the bottom of a lake so deep and dark that it kept its secret through entire generations, while theories and speculations flourished above the tranquil surface. Before we dive into this story that will make you question everything about disappearances and the secrets that water keeps, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because the case you're about to discover is one of the most intriguing mysteries in Idaho's history. This isn't just the story of a woman who vanished. It's the story of how someone can defy the expectations of an entire era, of how water can completely hide a half-ton motorcycle for decades, and of how sometimes the answers we seek are literally beneath the surface, waiting patiently to be revealed. The story begins in an era when women motorcyclists were extremely rare, when teachers were expected to be examples of conservative behavior, and when disappearing on the rural roads of Idaho meant simply evaporating without leaving a trace. Ashley Marie Mitchell was 31 years old in May 1957, and to anyone in Sandpoint, Idaho, she was a fascinating contradiction. During the week, the respectable and dedicated teacher who taught English literature at Sandpoint High School. On weekends, the woman in a leather jacket who rode a red Indian chief through the mountain roads, blonde hair flying in the wind, defying every expectation of how a woman should behave in the 1950s. At 5 feet 7 inches tall, with an athletic build from someone who spent hours outdoors, naturally wavy blonde hair that she usually kept in a professional bun during the week but let loose on weekends, and green eyes that shone with an independence that made some men uncomfortable and other women secretly envious. Ashley possessed that rare combination of beauty, intelligence, and absolute determination to live life on her own terms. Born on March 12, 1926 in Boise, Idaho, Ashley grew up in an unconventional family by the standards of the time. Her father, Thomas Mitchell, was an engineering professor at Boise State University and fervently believed that women should have the same educational opportunities as men. Her mother, Margaret Mitchell, worked as a nurse, uncommon for married women at the time, and completely supported her husband in raising an independent daughter. Ashley had an older brother, Robert, 3 years older, who taught her from an early age not to accept limitations based on gender. Ashley was always academically brilliant. She graduated as valedictorian of Boise High School in 1944 at 18 years old, right in the middle of World War II. While many of her male classmates were serving overseas, Ashley secured a full scholarship to the University of Idaho in Moscow, where she studied English literature. She graduated with honors in 1948 at 22 years old with a bachelor's degree and ambitious plans. But what really defined Ashley wasn't her academic achievements, however impressive they were. It was her passion for motorcycles. This began in 1946, during her second year at university. Robert, who had returned from the war, bought a used motorcycle, a pre-war Harley-Davidson. He taught Ashley to ride during the summer, and she instantly fell in love with the feeling of freedom, power, and absolute control that came from being on 2 wheels. In 1949, at 23 years old and working as a substitute teacher in Boise, Ashley did something scandalous for a young woman of the time. She used her savings to buy her own motorcycle. Not just any motorcycle, but a 1948 Indian Chief, a powerful 1,200cc machine with a 74 cubic inch V-twin engine capable of reaching speeds of over 160 kilometers an hour. The motorcycle was bright red with chrome details and cost her $685, almost 3 months' salary. Ashley's family supported her, but the community at large was shocked. Women simply didn't do such things in 1949. Some people whispered that Ashley must be mentally disturbed. Others suggested she would never find a husband with such masculine hobbies. But Ashley didn't care. She had found something that made her feel truly alive. In 1952, Ashley accepted a full-time position as an English literature teacher at Sandpoint High School, a small town in northern Idaho, near the border with Washington. Sandpoint, situated on the shores of Lake Pandarei, one of the deepest lakes in the United States, with depths of up to 350 meters in some spots, had a population of about 3,500 people. It was a community of loggers, fishermen, and railway workers, conservative but with that independent spirit characteristic of the interior Northwest. Ashley rented a small apartment on the second floor of the Victorian house on First Avenue, 2 blocks from the school. The apartment had 1 bedroom, a combined living room kitchen, and crucially, a small garage on the ground floor that the landlord agreed to let her use for her motorcycle. The Indian chief became as well known in Sandpoint as Ashley herself. People heard the distinctive roar of the engine and knew that the motorcycle teacher was passing by. At school, Ashley was respected and admired. She had the rare gift of making classical literature come alive for teenagers. She taught Shakespeare as if the characters were real people with real problems. She had her students debate Hamlet's motivations, argue about Elizabeth Bennet's choices, analyze the symbolism of Moby Dick. Her classes were the most popular in the school, and multiple former students would later credit Ashley with awakening in them a love of reading. But there was a clear division in Ashley's life. During the week, she was Miss Mitchell, hair in a bun, modest dresses below the knee, practical low-heeled shoes, reading glasses hanging on a chain. She was professional, reserved, the embodiment of respectability. On weekends, she transformed. Jeans, motorcycle boots, black leather jacket, red scarf around her neck, protective goggles. She let her hair down or tied it in a long braid. She mounted the Indian chief and disappeared into the mountain roads around Sandpoint, sometimes for hours, exploring every secondary road, every trail, every panoramic view. Ashley wasn't married, which in 1957, for a 21-year-old woman, generated considerable speculation. It wasn't for lack of suitors. Several men in Sandpoint and some teachers at the school had shown interest, but Ashley had high standards and zero interest in sacrificing her independence. "Why should I trade my freedom for cooking dinners and washing someone's shirts?" she once said to her best friend in Sandpoint, a nurse named Barbara Foster. Barbara, who was 28 years old and worked at Bonner General Hospital, was one of the few people in Sandpoint who truly understood Ashley. They met in a public library meeting, and a deep friendship formed based on shared interests in literature and a shared desire to live lives that didn't strictly conform to social expectations. Ashley had an orderly routine during the week. She woke at 6, prepared coffee and scrambled eggs, read the newspaper. She walked the 10 minutes to school, arriving at 7:30 to prepare her lessons. She taught from 8 to 3 in the afternoon, then stayed another hour or two grading papers or helping students. She dined alone at the small-town diner or cooked something simple at home. She read until late. Ashley voraciously consumed books, maintaining a personal library of over 300 volumes in her small apartment. But it was on weekends that Ashley truly lived. Saturdays and Sundays, if the weather permitted, she was on the road. Sometimes she rode alone, enjoying the solitude and the meditative feeling of long trips through the mountains. Other times she participated in informal gatherings with the few other motorcyclists in the region, all men who were initially skeptical about a woman rider, but who quickly learned that Ashley could outperform most of them in both skill and courage. The Indian chief was Ashley's most precious possession. She kept it in impeccable condition, regularly cleaning and polishing, doing all basic maintenance herself. She had learned basic motorcycle mechanics from Robert, and taking it to the only motorcycle mechanic in Sandpoint, a man named George Patterson, for more complex services. George, 53 years old and a lifelong rider, had immense respect for Ashley. She knows that machine better than most men know their cars.
"Skip Mom's birthday," Dad texted coldly. "No one wants you here anyway. You're a total failure." I just smirked and wrote back, "So cash matters more than your kid?" I just canceled everything, even the restaurant deposit you can't get back. They're all laughing in their group chat, but they have absolutely no clue what's about to hit them. I never thought I'd be posting something like this on Reddit, but honestly, I need to get this off my chest, and this seems like the right place. Fair warning, this is going to be long, so buckle up. Names changed for obvious reasons. So I, 38, male, married to Marissa, 37, female, been together since sophomore year of college when we met in a psych class, and we've got two awesome kids, Jake, 9, male, and Ellie, 5, female. We live in a modest 3-bedroom ranch just outside Indianapolis that needs work but has good bones. I run my own construction and renovation business, specializing in high-end bathroom and kitchen remodels. Nothing glamorous, but I pull in about $85,000 a year, which isn't bad for a guy who started with just a beat-up F-150 and a second-hand tool collection. A bit about my background. I grew up in what looks like the perfect suburban family from the outside, but was toxic as hell underneath. My dad's a real estate developer who made his fortune flipping commercial properties in the 90s and never lets anyone forget it. My older sister Lisa is a corporate attorney married to a plastic surgeon who specializes in mommy makeovers for wealthy clients. My younger sister Jenna's in pharmaceutical sales, driving a company BMW and living in a downtown condo my parents helped her buy. Growing up, our house was like a museum. Expensive furniture you couldn't actually sit on, a formal dining room used twice a year, and my mom constantly redecorating to keep up with whatever her country club friends were doing. I was always the black sheep because I chose to work with my hands instead of chasing some fancy degree or corporate ladder. Don't get me wrong, I went to college, got a business degree, but discovered I loved building things during a summer construction job. My parents never forgave me for choosing a blue-collar path. At family gatherings, they'd introduce my sisters with their full job titles and accomplishments, then just gesture vaguely at me and say, "That's Bruce, he's in construction," like it was a temporary phase I was going through at 38. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday morning back in February. Normal day. Had just dropped the kids at school. Jake forgot his science project, so we had to go back for it, making us late, and I stopped at this local coffee shop I like before heading to a kitchen remodel job for a doctor's family. I was standing in line, scrolling through my phone, checking supply orders, when it buzzed with a notification. Family group chat, titled Mom's Birthday, was flashing on my screen. For context, my mom's birthday is a huge deal in our family. She expects a full weekend celebration, expensive gifts, the works. Last year, my sister Lisa took her to a spa retreat in Arizona that cost more than my first car. I usually try to do something thoughtful since I can't compete financially. Last year, I restored this antique jewelry box she'd mentioned wanting fixed. She thanked me, then it disappeared into a closet somewhere. Anyway, I opened the chat, expecting the usual chaos about cake flavors or outfit coordination. Yes, they do that. But instead, I see this message from my dad. "Don't come to Mom's birthday party. The whole family doesn't want you there. You're a loser." I just stared at it. No emojis, no cushioning, just this bomb dropped in the middle of our family chat. The barista had to call my name twice because I was so shocked. And you know what? After the initial gut punch, I actually smiled. Not because it was funny, but because finally the mask came off. For years, they'd been looking down their noses at me. The tension at family dinners where they'd talk about their BMWs and vacation homes while giving me pitying looks. The eye rolls when I tried to explain the complexity of matching 100-year-old woodwork in a historic renovation like I was some kind of plumber instead of a skilled craftsman. The Christmas where my dad handed out bonus checks to my sisters for their hard work, but gave me a Home Depot gift card for $100. And worst of all, the way they treated Marissa, who's an elementary school teacher, like she was the help, always asking her to watch the other kids during family functions or help in the kitchen while my sisters lounged around. But this message? This was pure, unfiltered truth. I scrolled up. Nothing leading to it, just some messages about party decorations. Then boom, you're a loser. I wrote back only, so you chose money over your son? Then I canceled the restaurant reservation I'd made 3 weeks earlier, this fancy Italian place where meals start at $90 a plate. My mom always talked about it but claimed it was too exclusive to get reservations. What she didn't know is I'd done a custom wine cellar for the owner last year, working weekends for 2 months to get it perfect. He was so happy with it that he promised me the private room whenever I wanted. I'd booked it for $2,500, arranged for a special menu featuring all my mom's favorites, and even hired a jazz trio to play her favorite songs. Nobody knew about it. I wanted to surprise them, show them I was still family, even though I didn't drive a European car or vacation in the Hamptons. Then came the flood. My cousin Brant, investment banker, total douchebag, who once asked if I needed a loan in front of everyone at Thanksgiving, replied with laughing emojis. My sister Lisa wrote, "You really are delusional, still living in your little construction fantasy while the rest of us built real careers. Maybe if you'd applied yourself in school like Dad wanted, instead of playing with hammers, you wouldn't be embarrassing us all." Jenna, who I thought might have my back since I've helped her move 3 times and fixed up her condo for free, just liked the message and stayed quiet. Then my uncle sent a meme with my face photoshopped onto a clown with the caption, "When you think manual labor makes you successful." They were all responding within seconds of each other, like they'd been waiting for this moment. The group chat exploded with everyone piling on, Aunt Carol asking if I could at least dress properly if I did show up, my other cousin suggesting I could park cars or something useful at the party, and my mom's sister saying maybe it was for the best since Marissa clearly doesn't own anything appropriate for the venue. Anyway, that's when I knew I was done, really done. After that group chat, I didn't say another word to any of them. Not on the chat, not to my dad, nobody. I didn't block them or delete the thread, though. I wanted them to see me online, active, living my life. I wanted them to wonder. I finished my coffee, went to my job site, and worked like nothing happened. The client's wife brought me lunch. She did that sometimes because I was rebuilding her dream kitchen and actually listened to what she wanted instead of telling her what she should want, like their last contractor. Normal day. I came home, played catch with Jake, helped Ellie with her reading, ate dinner with my family. When the kids were in bed, I told Marissa everything. Not just about the message, but all the years leading up to it. How they'd make snide comments about her teacher's salary while asking her to watch their kids for free, how my mom would accidentally exclude us from family photos because we weren't dressed upscale enough or position us at the back. At my nephew's birthday, my sister asked Marissa if she could help the catering staff set up, not realizing she was basically asking my wife to be unpaid labor. I told her about the time my dad gave my oldest sister a $25,000 gift for a down payment on her house, but told me asking for a $5,000 loan for business equipment was enabling my poor choices. About how my mom had a habit of introducing Marissa as Bruce's wife. She's a teacher, in this tone that made it sound like she was saying she has headlights. Marissa listened without interrupting. And when she finished, she didn't say, "I told you so," even though she could have. She'd been telling me for years that my family treated us like second-class citizens. She just nodded and asked, "What do you want to do?" That moment right there, that's when I realized what I had. Most of my family would never have someone who had their back no matter what. They were all too busy climbing over each other to get to the top, throwing each other under the bus to impress my dad. My older sister Lisa literally scheduled her wedding during my younger sister's graduation to steal the spotlight. They were that kind of family. I told Marissa I didn't just want revenge. I wanted to show them that money isn't everything,
that they'd thrown away the only person who ever genuinely cared about them, rather
than what they could provide. So, what's the plan? She asked. And that's when it started to take shape. First, I contacted my buddy Mason, who runs a digital marketing agency. We played football together in high school, and I had renovated his basement into a killer home office the previous year at cost because he was between jobs. I asked him to help me build a proper website for my renovation business, not just a landing page with my phone number, but a full portfolio showing the high-end work I've been quietly doing for years. See, what my family never bothered to find out was that I'd developed a reputation among architects for detail work that nobody else could match. Those hammer and nail skills they mocked, they led to me getting referrals for some of the most expensive homes in the area. I just never bragged about it like they would have. Mason built me a website showcasing before-after photos of my best projects, testimonials from clients, including several whose names even my status-obsessed family would recognize, and a proper booking system. He also set up targeted social media that would reach the exact high-end clients I wanted. Within 2 weeks, I had customers with seven-figure homes messaging me from Instagram. My business tripled from $85,000 to on track for nearly $250,000 that year. Then I called my cousin, Ryan, not one from the group chat. He'd left the family years ago after his dad, my uncle, borrowed $150,000 from Ryan's college fund to invest in a sure-thing casino development that went bust. We kept in touch on the down low, grabbing lunch when he was in town. He lives out in Asheville, North Carolina, owns a bunch of rental properties, and had always said there was room for me if I ever wanted to move. He'd even offered me a deal on one of his houses a while back. I never took him up on it until now. I told him I was thinking of moving, fresh start. He didn't hesitate, said one of his tenants was leaving in 3 months and the place was mine if I wanted it. 4 bedrooms on the edge of the mountains. Mortgage will be less than our current place. Space for the kids, a workshop for my tools, and most importantly, peace. Meanwhile, I was playing nice on social media, posting pictures of me and Marissa at charity events in the wealthy parts of town where I had clients, coaching Jake's Little League team where he was actually getting pretty good. Ellie's dance recital, she got a solo even though she was youngest in her class. Family dinners, always smiling, always together, never once mentioning the drama behind the scenes. I also started posting before-after shots of my latest projects, all multi-million-dollar homes with owners who trusted me with their luxury kitchens and bathrooms, a famous former NFL player's media room, a tech CEO's custom library with hidden passages and built-in gadgets, a complete restoration of a historic mansion's original woodwork that had been featured in a design magazine. And my family was watching. I know they were, because one day Lisa sent me a private message. "Where did you get the money to attend the Children's Hospital Gala? Those tickets are $500 each. Dad thinks you might be in some kind of financial trouble and making bad decisions." Translation, they can't stand that I might actually be doing well without their help. I left it on red. Then Mom texted, not in the group chat, but directly. "Bruce, I see your business is doing well. Maybe we should talk. Your father has some connections that might help you expand. Some of our friends have been asking about your work, which is a bit awkward since we don't know what to tell them." Translation, now that other rich people are noticing me, they want to pretend they've been supportive all along. It was tempting to tell them to go screw themselves, but I waited. I needed more time. This wasn't about giving them a piece of my mind. It was about showing them exactly what they'd thrown away. Mom's birthday came and went. I didn't show up, obviously, but I heard about it after. Jenna got in touch a week later and said the energy was weird, that people kept bringing me up, that Dad was quieter than usual. Apparently, Dad had been telling everyone I'd have a meltdown and cause a scene, so when I didn't show at all, he looked like an idiot. She also mentioned that the party was at some mediocre steakhouse because Dad claimed the reservation he made at somewhere special fell through. When I heard that, I nearly spit out my coffee. The $2,500 deposit I lost on that Italian place was worth every penny, just to imagine their faces when they ended up at Outback or whatever. Mom kept checking her phone all night. Jenna said she barely touched her food. Good. Let that sink in. 2 weeks after Mom's birthday, the silence finally broke. I hadn't texted anyone, but I hadn't blocked them either. I wanted them to watch. Then my dad texted, "Your mother's been crying. You've made your point. Enough is enough. We have the Petersons charity auction next week, and people are asking about you. It's embarrassing." No apology, no ownership, just concern about their social image. That line, "You've made your point," was the dumbest thing I'd ever read. He thought this was about proving something. He still didn't get it. None of them did. So I didn't reply, not even a dot. 3 days later, Jenna texted, asking to meet, just her, no pressure. I waited a few hours, then agreed. Coffee, neutral ground. I met at this little cafe on the south side where none of our family ever went because it wasn't exclusive enough and didn't serve avocado toast or whatever. I got there early, sat by the window. She came in 10 minutes late, no makeup, hair and a messy bun, looking nothing like her usual polished self. She looked tired, but not physically tired. Tired in a way I recognized. First words out of her mouth, "You were right, Bruce." I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. She told me about the birthday, how it hadn't been fun at all. Mom spent the night fake happy, clinking glasses and laughing too loud. Dad paced around, checking his phone, obviously expecting me to show up with some grand apology. Lisa spent the whole night humble bragging about her husband's new partnership at his surgical practice, worth mid-7 figures. She even had the galls to tell people I couldn't attend because I was having financial difficulties, and they were trying to respect my privacy. This from the woman who once asked me to retile her bathroom for free as a family favor while wearing a watch that cost more than my truck. Jenna said the worst part was when Mom opened her gifts, designer handbags, jewelry, spa vouchers, and then she got to the small box from our Aunt May, who's the only decent one besides Ryan. It was a handmade photo frame with a picture of Mom and all 3 of us kids from when we were young. Mom burst into tears and had to leave the table. Dad followed her out and came back alone 20 minutes later, claiming she had a migraine. She kept asking about the Italian restaurant, Jenna said, like she somehow knew there was supposed to be a reservation there. Dad kept saying he didn't know what she was talking about, but she wouldn't let it go. Then Jenna said something that shocked me. After I left the chat, people started talking, really talking. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years asked what happened, why everyone was laughing at me one minute and acting like I'd disappeared the next. Brant messaged Jenna, admitting the clown meme was shitty, said he was just following the group vibe like a sheep, but at least he owned up to it. Even Uncle Ron, the only one in the family who works with his hands as a hobby, remembered when I fixed his garage door during a storm without asking for anything. He told Jenna nobody else in the family would have done that. They'd have called a service and sent him the bill. Remember when Lisa's basement flooded last year and you showed up at midnight with pumps and stayed until 4 a.m. getting the water out? Jenna asked. She told people at the party some guy she hired did it. She didn't even admit it was you. Then she told me something I'll never forget. Mom said you were the one who always needed help, but now that you're gone, everyone realizes you were the one who always gave help. You're the only one who ever actually shows up when someone needs something, not just when there's something to gain. That hit me hard, not because I needed recognition, but because I hadn't realized how much I was giving to people who never gave back. Jenna went quiet after that. She didn't ask me to come back or defend anyone. She just looked at me and said, "They only loved you when you were useful to them. Dad's been calling all your old clients trying to find out who you're working for now. And Mom's been showing people your Instagram posts of the luxury homes you've renovated, like suddenly she's proud. It's disgusting. You know what Dad said at dinner last week?" she continued. He said, "Bruce is finally learning how to make money."
Connections with the right people. Took him long enough to listen to me, like your success is somehow because of his advice, not in spite of it. That's when it all clicked. I wasn't the problem. I'd never been the problem. I was just the easiest person to blame when the system started breaking down. They built their version of family on status, money, and appearance. The second I stepped out of that mold but started succeeding on my own terms, they couldn't handle it. I left that cafe feeling strange, not angry, not vindicated, just clear, like a fog had finally lifted. After talking to Jenna, I didn't go home angry. I didn't call anyone to vent or type out some long message I'd never send. I just sat in my truck in the parking lot, staring at the gray sky, feeling clearer than I had in years. There wouldn't be a big confrontation or blow-up. I didn't want that. What was coming wasn't a moment, it was a movement. Slow, deliberate, unmistakable. I started with the company. The new branding Mason helped with had already doubled my client base. Now I went all in, invested $20,000 in a targeted ad campaign focusing exclusively on the wealthiest neighborhoods, hired a part-time administrator to handle bookings and billing, and started documenting projects with professional photography and drone footage. I even hired a videographer to do a mini documentary on a $1.2 million kitchen renovation I did for a local CEO. The video went mini viral in our area, getting shared among the exact crowd my parents desperately wanted to impress. I started getting calls from their friends, people whose homes I'd never been invited to despite growing up in the same circles. One woman, a close friend of my mother's, hired me to redo her master bathroom and couldn't stop talking about how Marion never mentioned how talented you are. I never mentioned my family, but it was all there. The success, the growth, the respect, and people noticed. Cousins who'd ignored my texts for years suddenly started following the business account. Lisa started liking my posts again, always the ones where you could see expensive homes in the background. Dad even called the business line once, hanging up when my new assistant answered. I ignored it all. Instead, I posted a cryptic photo that seemed normal unless you were paying attention. A stack of moving boxes with a caption that said, "New chapter loading." No location, no explanation, just enough. Jenna texted the next morning. "Wait, are you moving? Mom's freaking out." I didn't answer. What they didn't know was that I'd been making power moves behind the scenes. Remember that client whose kitchen I renovated? He was so impressed that he offered me a partnership opportunity, funding to expand my business into high-end home automation integration. We're talking whole house systems for multi-million-dollar properties, a $500,000 investment for 25% of the new division. I took it, signed the paperwork on a Thursday, didn't tell a soul except Marissa. The investor, David, had connections in Asheville, too. Turns out it's becoming a hotspot for wealthy remote workers looking for custom smart homes in beautiful settings. The plan was perfect. Expand the business there, build a new life away from the toxic family dynamics, and actually enjoy watching my kids grow up without the constant judgment. Meanwhile, Marissa and I spent our evenings sorting, selling, and packing. We donated half our furniture and sold the rest online. Jake and Ellie helped pack their toys, and we let them draw on the boxes. Their excitement made everything easier. Kids don't grieve the way adults do. They don't see what's being left behind, only what's ahead. Every so often, Marissa would ask, "Are you scared?" And every time I'd say, "I've never been more certain of anything." The Asheville house would be ready in 6 weeks. Ryan sent photos, fresh paint, polished floors, a backyard with a maple tree big enough for a tire swing, and a workshop 3 times the size of my current garage. It was everything I never knew I wanted. Quiet, green, wide open, and no one around to tell me who I had to be. A week before the move, I opened the family group chat one last time. Messages had returned to normal. Photos of Lisa's husband's new Porsche, Mom's plans for a summer trip to the Hamptons, restaurant links to places with $200 tasting menus. My name hadn't been mentioned in weeks, like I never existed. I didn't post anything. I just quietly left the chat. And that was the beginning of the real avalanche. Jenna called first, straight to voicemail. Then the text started coming in. "Lisa, what's going on? Mom says you're selling your house. Mom, we heard you're moving. Can we talk before you leave? Your father has some business contacts in commercial renovation he thinks might interest you." Always about money and connections, never about me as a person. I didn't answer. I let it sit. Dad texted again. "You're overreacting. Enough is enough. I heard about your new partnership with James Miller. Why didn't you come to me first? I could have gotten you a better deal. 25% is highway robbery. You're leaving money on the table because you're too stubborn to take advice." How the hell did he know about the partnership? I hadn't told anyone except Marissa. That's when I realized they'd been digging into my business, probably calling around to mutual acquaintances, trying to figure out how I was suddenly succeeding without their help. Still no apology, still the same tone, like I owed them something. Like the years I spent trying to earn their love didn't matter the second I stopped trying. But they weren't the only ones watching. Something was happening behind the scenes. My aunt, who hadn't spoken to me in years, sent a note thanking me for helping her neighbor with his roof 2 summers ago when a tree fell on it during a storm. I barely remember doing it. She ended with, "You always show up when people need you, not just when there's something in it for you." Brant sent another message, longer this time. He admitted the meme was cruel, said he got caught up in the group energy and didn't realize how messed up it was later. Said his wife was leaving for someone who actually gives a damn about her as a person, not just as a status symbol. Said he respected what I was doing with my life, wished he had the guts to cut ties too. Then came the weirdest message from my sister Lisa's husband. We'd never been close. He always treated me like I was the help when I came over to fix things around their house. But he sent a long text about how he'd never seen anyone stand up to my dad before, how he was suffocating under the family expectations, and how he sometimes wished he had chosen a different path. It was bizarre, coming from a guy who seemed to embody everything my family valued. I read these messages twice, then archived them all. I didn't need apologies anymore. I needed distance. The night before the move, my phone exploded with calls from my parents. I let them all go to voicemail. Dad's message was predictably self-centered. "This is ridiculous, Bruce. You can't just move across the country without discussing it with the family. What about your mother's feelings? What about your responsibilities here? Who's going to take care of the house when something breaks? This is just selfish." My mother's message was worse, tearful, manipulative. "Bruce, please call me back. I don't understand what's happening. We've always supported you, even when you chose that career. We just want what's best for you. Please don't do this to me. I'm your mother." The audacity was astounding. They still saw themselves as the victims. The move was set for a Friday. We rented a truck, loaded it ourselves with a few close friends, and didn't say a word to the family. No goodbyes, no forwarding addresses, just gone. But I did leave one last breadcrumb. 3 days before the move, I incorporated my business in North Carolina, filed all the paperwork publicly with my new address clearly listed. Then, I updated the business website with our new location, now serving Asheville and surrounding areas, along with a picture of me standing in front of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I knew they'd see it. They were too nosy not to look. Then, just before pulling out of the driveway, I posted a final photo on my personal account. Our empty living room, sunlight on the floor. Caption: "Sometimes leaving toxic people behind is the only way to grow. Family isn't about blood or money, it's about who actually gives a damn when it counts." Then I turned off my phone. They didn't realize I wasn't running. I was finally walking in the right direction. We hit the road around 8 a.m. Overcast, cool, perfect weather for leaving everything behind. Marissa drove the SUV with the kids while I followed in the rental truck. Windows down, one arm hanging out. No music. I didn't need a soundtrack, just the hum of tires on asphalt and the silence between towns.
The drive to Asheville took almost 8 hours, but felt like minutes. No second guessing, no what-ifs, just this strange peace that grew deeper the further we got from Indiana. Like weightlifting from my shoulders that I hadn't even noticed was there. Halfway there, we stopped at a roadside diner. Jake asked if Grandma and Grandpa would visit us in our new house. I told him maybe someday, but not right away. Ellie asked if that made me sad. I had to think about it before answering honestly. No, sweetheart. Sometimes people can love you, but not be good for you, and that's okay. Ryan met us at the new house with a spare set of keys and 2 pizzas. The place was even better in person. Big wraparound porch, real trees that weren't suffocating in the suburbs, and space inside. Space to breathe, space to build without shadows. The kids ran through every room, claiming spaces and yelling about how Ellie's walls had to be purple like the flowers outside. Marissa leaned against the counter and smiled. She didn't have to say anything. I knew she felt it too. That night, after the kids passed out on sleeping bags and half-built bunk beds, I sat on the porch and turned my phone back on. Messages poured in. I scrolled through them slowly, like turning pages in a book whose ending I already knew. "Mom, please don't shut me out. This isn't how families work things out. We're worried about your financial stability.
Your father says this business venture is a mistake. Lisa, you're tearing this family apart. Over what? A text? Dad, says this partnership is going to fail without his connections. He's just trying to protect you. Even Jenna had cracked. You could have said goodbye. We're your family, Bruce. This isn't you. Mom found your restaurant reservation for her birthday. She's devastated. But the one that stood out was from Dad. You're acting like a child. Running away won't solve anything. When this falls apart, don't come asking for help. Your mother is inconsolable, and it's your fault. I actually laughed. That was the best he had. Still trying to put me down. Still assuming I'd fail without him. Still making it about loyalty to him while showing none to me. I didn't respond. Didn't rage or explain or argue. I just deleted every message, deleted the thread, and blocked all their numbers one by one. Quietly, cleanly, finally. No dramatic goodbye, no bitter speech, just gone. We spent the next week settling in. I slowly transitioned the business. New clients, new licenses, new jobs already lined up thanks to Ryan's connections and my growing online reputation. I set up a showroom downtown for the home automation side of the business, complete with demo stations for potential clients to see what we could do. Marissa took a position at a private school that actually paid her what she was worth and started planting a little garden out back. The kids made friends on our street within days. We met neighbors who invited us to community cookouts without caring what we wore or what cars we drove. It wasn't instant magic, but it was ours. No one here cared about my last name or who my parents were. They just knew me as Bruce, the guy who built amazing things and played catch with his son in the backyard. Then a strange thing started happening. Messages from old friends back home. Hey, your mom was crying at the country club lunch saying you cut off the whole family. What happened? Your sister posted this long thing about forgiveness and family loyalty. Are you okay, dude? Your dad is telling everyone you had a breakdown after a business failure. He's offering to help anyone who knows where you are. It's weird. That was their narrative, that I'd lost it, that I needed help, that I'd failed because they couldn't admit the truth, that I'd broken something they assumed I'd always be too loyal to walk away from. But I hadn't lost anything. I'd finally found peace, and nothing they could say, no rumor they could spread could take that away. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't living in reaction to them. I was just living. 1 year in Asheville changed everything. It wasn't just a new beginning. It felt like someone had quietly handed my life back to me. The business exploded. The home automation partnership brought in clients I never dreamed of having. Pro athletes, tech executives buying mountain retreats, old money families renovating century-old estates. We cleared $1.2 million in revenue that first year, with projections to hit $2 million the next. I hired a team of 15 guys, all skilled craftsmen who took pride in their work. Marissa was thriving at her new school, where she was actually respected for her teaching skills, not treated like she had chosen a fallback career. Jake made the travel baseball team and was crushing it, and Ellie got accepted into a competitive dance program. We bought a second property, a small cabin by a lake as a weekend getaway spot. For the first time ever, there was no weight on my chest when I woke up, no pressure to explain myself, no silent scoreboard where I was constantly losing just because I chose a different path. I barely thought about my family back in Indiana, honestly. They felt like they belonged to a different life. Occasionally, I'd get messages through mutual friends. Someone heard my dad was telling people I got lucky with a business connection, or my mom had been asking around about Asheville real estate prices. I ignored it all. People like that don't change. They just change tactics. Then came the bomb I never expected. One Thursday morning in October, I got a voicemail from Lisa. Her voice sounded tight, controlled, but with panic underneath. Dad's real estate company had collapsed. The market turned, several major investments failed simultaneously, and worst of all, there was an investigation into some accounting irregularities. Turned out, Dad had been cooking the books for years, misrepresenting properties and playing fast and loose with investor money. They'd had to sell the house, the vacation property, the cars, everything. Mom's country club membership gone. Lisa's husband apparently had been struggling too. A malpractice suit had cost him his partnership position, and they were downsizing temporarily. And here was the kicker. Dad and Mom were moving to Asheville to downsize and be closer to family. I laughed so hard I nearly crashed my truck. The audacity. I didn't call back. I played the message twice, saved it for posterity, and didn't even mention it to Marissa. 2 weeks later, another message, this time from Dad himself. His voice sounded old, defeated. They were living in a condo on the outskirts of Asheville, not the nice part. The medical bills from his emergency gallbladder surgery had wiped out what little they had left. Mom was looking for work, but at her age it was difficult. He asked if I could find it in my heart to help them out. Maybe a job for Mom at my office, some contractor work for him as a consultant. The man who had called me a loser, who had told me construction wasn't a real career, was now asking me for a construction job. I saved that message too, didn't return it. Then came the text from Mom. "Bruce, please, we're family. We've lost everything. Your father's too proud to beg, but I'm not. We need help. Lisa can't help us. They're underwater on their mortgage. Jenna got laid off, and I'm barely making ends meet. You're the only one doing well." I looked at her for a long moment. "Tell me something, Jenna. When Dad texted me that I was a loser and shouldn't come to Mom's birthday, when all of you laughed and sent memes, where was this family loyalty?" She had the decency to look ashamed. "We were wrong, so wrong, but Bruce,